Okay, so are you ready to kind of do a deep dive into this whole Sermon on the Mount thing?
I am so ready.
Because you sent over
Yes,
some
sir.
source material, and I gotta say, this Urantia book is it's giving me some new insights into this whole thing.
Yeah.
Um,
It's juicy.
so
Good stuff.
okay, so you shared paper 140 with me,
Yes.
and it's basically giving us like the behind the scenes
Yes.
scoop of what went down right before
It's,
Jesus gave that famous sermon.
Yeah, this is like the director's cut
Okay.
of the Sermon on the Mount.
I like that.
This is like the extended edition.
Okay.
Because what we find out is that this wasn't just like a public address
Right.
that he was giving. This was actually the ordination charge to his 12 apostles.
Okay, so this is like an intimate
Very intimate.
setting, and he's giving them the down low.
This is like the inner circle getting like the real deal.
Okay, this is good stuff because, I always thought of that sermon as like this big booming, pronouncement from on high.
Right.
But now I'm seeing it as like a much more personal
Yes.
exchange.
It's much more intimate, which
Okay.
I like. It's like, think of it this way. Instead of reading like the published transcript of a famous speech, imagine you've got your hands on like the handwritten notes that the speaker used to prep.
Okay.
Like we're getting
Well,
that level of insight.
Yeah, the raw, unfiltered version.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's talk about these apostles for a second because
Yeah.
they seem to be a little stuck
They really.
on this whole kingdom idea.
Well, they were.
Like they're
It's
expecting
almost comical.
like a physical kingdom.
Like seriously, every other sentence out of their mouth is like, so about this kingdom, when do we get the armies? When do we storm the castle?
Like, are we picking out curtains? Are we measuring for drapes?
Exactly. They're like measuring each other for crowns.
Yeah.
They're polishing their swords. It's like, guys,
Right.
this is not what he's talking about.
Then Jesus is like, guys.
Yeah.
The kingdom of God is within you.
Within you.
And I'm always like, what does that even mean?
Oh, right.
Like within you? Is there like a little throne room in my spleen or something?
It's not anatomical.
Okay.
It's not like you're going to find it on a map.
Okay.
All right. But it is interesting when we look at what the Urantia book says about this,
Okay.
because it emphasizes this concept of sonship.
Sonship.
So it's saying we're not just like random creations of God, we're his children.
Okay.
We're his offspring, which means we share in his divine nature
Okay.
in a very real way. And so this kingdom within, it's not a physical place.
Right.
It's that inner connection to the divine.
Okay.
It's a state of being where we're aligned with God's will.
So it's about tapping into that inner divinity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That spark of the divine within us, that's the kingdom.
I like that. Okay. So it's not about location. It's about
being.
a state of mind.
But okay, if the apostles were hoping for like a how-to manual,
Right.
I feel like they must have walked away a little disappointed.
They were looking for the step-by-step guide.
Right, because they kept asking for rules, right?
Totally. They wanted the checklist. Like, remember when James brings up divorce?
Oh, yeah, James is like, so Jesus, about these divorce laws.
He's like, can we get some clarification?
He's ready to like write down the new legal code.
Right.
But Jesus is like, hold on a minute. I'm not here to settle your earthly disputes.
Well-
I'm here to establish the kingdom of heaven within you.
Okay, so again, it's that inner transformation,
It always comes back to that.
not the outer stuff.
It's about changing your heart, not just your circumstances.
But that makes so much sense when you pair it with that whole sonship thing,
Right.
knowing we carry a piece of the divine within us.
It's powerful stuff.
That's big.
Yeah.
Okay. I do have one little bone
Yeah.
to pick, though, with this whole kingdom within business.
Okay, what's that?
Because elsewhere, Jesus talks about being wise and discerning. Right. And he even warns about, like, false prophets.
Yeah, he's not all sunshine and rainbows.
Right. So how does that jive with the whole
Right?
become like little children thing?
Yeah.
Because to me, that feels like a contradiction.
Well, that's where Thomas comes in.
Okay, good old doubting Thomas.
Bless his heart. He's like the patron saint of skeptics.
Right.
And he actually brings this up to Jesus. He's like, wait a minute. I thought we weren't supposed to be naive here.
Right.
You've told us to watch out for wolves in sheep's clothing, and now you're saying, be like children.
Okay.
What's the deal?
So how does Jesus respond?
So Jesus clarifies, and he says, look, I'm not saying you should be gullible or let people take advantage of you.
Okay.
When I say become like children, I'm talking about embodying that pure form of love that a child has for their parent. That unquestioning trust, that desire for connection. That's what I mean.
So it's about approaching our relationship with the divine
Yes.
with that same kind of open heart.
Exactly.
Okay, that's actually really beautiful.
It is.
when you put it like that.
It's about that childlike wonder and awe and love.
Okay.
It's not about checking your brain at the door. It's about approaching that relationship with your whole heart.
So it's not about blind faith. It's about...
It's about a different kind of faith.
Okay, I can get behind that.
It's about trust.
Trust.
It's about love without bargaining.
Okay.
It's about that pure desire for connection.
I like it. And that kind of leads us to another
It does.
big part of this whole section,
It does.
which is this idea of fatherly love.
Fatherly love, exactly.
Okay, but I got to be honest. Love thy neighbor. That's like standard issue, right?
Right. It's like Faith 101.
What makes this fatherly love thing so different?
So it's not just about loving your neighbor.
Okay.
It's about loving like God loves.
Okay.
And the Urantia book really emphasizes this.
Okay.
It's about tapping into that boundless, that merciful love that a parent has for a child.
Even when they screw up.
Especially when they screw up.
Okay.
Even when they make mistakes. Even when they're being difficult.
Okay, so it's like unconditional.
It's that unwavering love, and it's extended even to those that we might consider unworthy.
Okay. Whoa.
Yeah.
That's
a high bar.
It's a high bar.
It is.
I don't know if I can reach that.
Right, and that's what's so fascinating here,
Yeah.
because the Urantia book seems to suggest that it is possible, that this capacity for this fatherly love, it's part of our divine inheritance.
Okay, but then you read those Beatitudes.
Right.
And I'm like, blessed are the peacemakers.
Yeah, how do you do that?
How do you live that out?
Right.
Every day.
Exactly. And that's, I think, part of the challenge that the Urantia book puts forward is that it doesn't shy away from how difficult this is.
Okay.
It acknowledges that this is a process, that it's a journey.
Yeah.
And so when we look at the Beatitudes, they're full of these challenging but inspiring ideas.
So like, blessed are the peacemakers. How does that fit into this?
So it's not just about keeping the peace yourself.
Okay.
It's about actively preventing conflict.
Okay.
It's about seeing the inherent worth in every single person, even those we disagree with. And that takes a level of compassion that goes way beyond simply avoiding a fight.
Right.
It's about actively trying to heal those divisions to bridge those gaps. And that's just one example.
Right.
The Urantia book highlights how each beatitude is essentially a facet of this boundless fatherly love.
Okay, so it's not just about what we do.
Exactly.
It's about
the why behind the what.
the why behind the what. I like that.
It's about the state of your heart.
So our inner world matters just as much as those outer actions.
Maybe even more so because,
Okay.
and this is where things get really interesting,
Okay, tell me more.
Jesus actually flips the script on how we typically approach this whole faith and action thing.
Okay.
Instead of saying, okay, if you do all the right things, then you'll be righteous.
Right.
He's saying, no, true righteousness comes from within. It's about being, not just doing.
Okay. But that's...
Tougher than it sounds.
Oh, I bet it is.
It's a lot easier to check boxes than
Yeah.
it is to actually transform your heart.
But that's what he's calling us to do.
It is. And you know what? It's not about earning brownie points with God. It's not about racking up good deeds to get into some cosmic country club.
Okay.
It's about a fundamental shift in how we see ourselves.
So it's about who we are.
Yes.
Not just what we do.
It's about aligning ourselves with that divine spark within and letting that inform our actions.
Okay, so then how do actions fit into this whole equation?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is, because, I mean, Jesus wasn't all about, like, sitting around meditating all day.
No, he was definitely a man of action.
Right. So how do we reconcile those two things?
Well, the Urantia book really emphasizes that Jesus lived his teachings. He wasn't just talking the talk, he was walking the walk.
He was the embodiment.
Exactly. He was the embodiment of everything he taught.
It's like do as I do.
Yes.
Not just do as I say.
He was the ultimate example.
But even with a living, breathing example right there in front of them,
Right.
the apostles still struggled.
Oh, they totally did.
Which I find very reassuring.
Absolutely. It makes it so much more relatable, right?
Because I'm sitting here thinking like, okay, if I had Jesus standing right in front of me,
Right.
I'd get it right.
You'd think so, wouldn't you?
But they were human.
They were.
Just like us.
And they messed up.
And they messed up.
They doubted.
And they still had to figure things out as they went along.
They were learning as they went, just like we are.
Which is actually really comforting.
It is.
To know that it's a process.
It's a journey, not a destination.
Okay, so speaking of human struggles,
Yeah.
there's a part in here where Jesus really gets into the difference between our outward actions
Yes,
and our inner motivations.
he does.
And he does not mince words about hypocrisy.
Oh, no. He calls it out.
He calls it out.
He's like, don't even try to come at me with that.
So give me an example.
Well, he uses anger as an example.
Okay.
He says, look, it's not enough to just avoid physically harming someone.
Right.
I'm talking about uprooting the anger itself.
Okay.
Cultivating a heart of true forgiveness and compassion.
So he's saying our thoughts.
Now, your thoughts, your intentions, all of that inner stuff.
Our inner world matters.
It's just as important as what you actually do in the world.
But that's easy to forget.
Oh, it is.
Because it's so easy to get caught up in appearances.
Oh, yeah, keeping up with the Joneses.
Right, like, well, at least I'm not as bad as that guy.
Exactly.
But Jesus is like, nope, I'm looking deeper.
He's checking your motives.
Checking my motives.
He wants to see what's really going on in your heart.
So it's not about comparison.
Yeah.
It's about self-reflection.
It's about being honest with yourself.
And that's where the real work begins.
Exactly. And you know what? That's how we start to embody the spirit of the kingdom.
By looking inward?
By doing the inner work.
Okay, so the kingdom is this internal state.
Yes.
This connection to our divine nature.
It's about aligning yourself with that divine spark within.
Okay, so where do the actions come in?
We'll dig into that more in a little bit.
Okay, because I have a feeling this is going to be a recurring theme.
It definitely is.
In our conversation.
It's the heart of the matter.
Okay, so we're going to take a quick break.
Yes.
And when we come back, we'll delve a little deeper into this whole action versus being thing.
Sounds good. And it's in those deeper layers, those internal shifts, that we truly begin to embody the spirit of the kingdom.
And that, I think, is what Jesus was trying to convey to his apostles.
I think so, too.
Especially during their final evening together.
Yes.
Before they set out on their own.
Their Last Supper.
Okay, so paint the picture for me. What's the vibe like at this final gathering?
Well, you know, you've got this mix of emotions.
Okay.
You've got excitement because they're about to embark on this incredible mission.
Right, they're going to change the world.
Right. But there's also this undercurrent of anxiety. Okay.
Because let's be real, they have no idea what they're getting into.
Right. It's like, you want us to do what now?
Exactly, and they've got this radical message.
Okay.
But the world isn't exactly known for embracing new ideas.
So no pressure or anything?
Right, just go change the hearts and minds of everyone you meet.
Okay, so how does Jesus prepare them?
Well, he doesn't sugarcoat things.
Okay.
He's very direct about the risks involved.
Okay, so what does he say?
He tells them straight up, look, you're going to face persecution.
Okay.
You're going to be rejected.
Right.
People might even try to kill you for what you believe.
Okay, so this is not like a walk in the park.
No, it's serious business.
But they're all in at this point, right?
They're committed.
They're like, let's do this.
They've been through too much together to back down now. But I mean, even with that level of commitment,
Yeah.
I imagine hearing those words would be a little unsettling.
It's a reality check, for sure.
So how does Jesus offer them encouragement?
Well, he reminds them that they've been given something incredibly precious, something powerful that they get to share with the world.
So it's not just about what they're up against.
Right.
It's about what they have to offer.
It's about the gift they carry within them.
Okay, I like that.
And there's this line that always gets me.
Yeah.
He says, freely you have received.
Yes.
Freely give.
Okay, I love that line.
It's like he's saying, you've been given this incredible connection to the divine.
Okay.
Now go be that conduit for others.
So it's not about hoarding the good stuff.
No.
It's about letting it flow through you.
Exactly. It's about being a channel for that divine love and grace.
But I'm sure even with that encouragement, there were still moments of, wait, how do we actually do this?
Oh, absolutely.
Because it's one thing to have a spiritual understanding.
Right.
But it's another thing entirely to put it into practice.
Especially in the face of opposition and persecution.
So how does Jesus address that challenge?
Well, he reminds them that they're not alone in this.
Okay.
He says, I will be with you always, even to the end of the age.
And I love that because it speaks to that ever-present nature of the divine.
Yes.
It's like that inner kingdom is always accessible.
Exactly.
It's not about finding it in a particular time or place.
It's about tapping into that inner connection.
That inner resource.
That's always available to us.
Okay, so as we're kind of wrapping up this deep dive, I'm struck by how relevant these teachings still are today.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, we're still grappling with these same questions, right?
We are.
What does it mean to embody our divine inheritance?
Right.
How do we cultivate that inner kingdom?
Yes.
In the midst of a world that often feels chaotic and uncertain.
It's a lifelong journey, isn't it?
It is.
And I think this section of the Urantia book, it offers a really powerful roadmap
Okay.
for anyone seeking to deepen their understanding of Jesus's message.
It's a call to action,
It is.
but not in that traditional sense
Right.
of building empires or enforcing rules.
It's about something much more radical.
Okay, I like where this is going.
It's about transforming ourselves from the inside out.
So it's about recognizing that spark of divinity within us
Yes.
and then letting it shine brightly.
Letting it illuminate the world around us.
Okay, I love that.
And you know what it makes you think? If those ordinary fishermen
Right.
could be transformed by simply opening themselves to Jesus's message.
Okay.
Imagine the potential for transformation within ourselves
Yeah.
when we truly embrace that same spirit
That same spirit of love and forgiveness
and unwavering faith
in the power of the human spirit.
to connect with the divine.
Ooh, that's good.
It's a powerful thought, isn't it?
It is. So they're about to be launched into the world armed with these radical ideas.
Yeah.
And they're facing potential resistance.
Yeah.
At every turn, I imagine Jesus had some pretty strong words of encouragement for them.
He did, but he also doesn't let them off the hook.
Okay.
He's very real with them about the challenges ahead.
So, like, what does he say?
Well, he's pretty blunt about the possibility of persecution,
Okay.
rejection, even death for what they believe.
Wow, talk about a buzzkill.
Right. It's like, go spread this message of love, but also be prepared for the haters.
Right.
But even with those warnings,
Yeah.
Jesus doesn't leave them feeling hopeless.
Okay, so amidst the doom and gloom,
Right.
what does he offer them?
Hope.
Oh.
He reminds them that they've been given a gift,
Okay.
something powerful to share with the world.
Okay.
And there's that line that always gets me.
What's that?
Freely you have received, freely give.
Okay.
It's like he's saying, look, you've been given this incredible connection to something bigger than yourselves.
Right.
Now go be that for others.
Don't keep it to yourself.
Exactly. Share the wealth,
Okay, yeah.
spread the love.
But I'm sure even with all that,
Yeah.
there were still moments of like, wait, how do we actually do this?
Oh, absolutely.
Right, because it's one thing to receive a gift.
Right.
It's another thing entirely to know how to use it.
Especially when the world is telling you you're crazy for even having it in the first place.
Right, so how does Jesus equip them to deal with that?
He reminds them that they're not alone.
Okay.
He says, I will be with you always, even to the end of the age.
Okay, I love that line because it speaks to that ever-present nature of the divine,
It does.
right? Like it's not about finding God in a particular time or place.
It's about recognizing that connection that's always there.
It's that inner kingdom we've been talking about.
Exactly.
So it's always accessible. You
always.
just have to remember to tap into it.
It's like having that direct line to the divine 24/7.
I like that, a 24/7 hotline to the divine.
Exactly. So no matter what challenges they face, they have that source of strength to draw from.
Okay, so as we're wrapping up this deep dive,
Mhm.
I think it's important to remember that even though this story took place thousands of years ago,
Right.
the lessons are still so relevant for us today.
Absolutely. They're timeless.
I mean, we're all on this journey
We are.
of trying to figure out how to live out our own divine inheritance.
And how to navigate those challenges.
Right, and how to stay connected to that inner source of strength,
Exactly.
especially when the world feels chaotic.
It's easy to lose sight of that inner peace,
It is, but I
Yeah.
think that's the challenge that Jesus left us with,
to stay connected.
right? To keep cultivating that inner kingdom,
And let it shine through in everything we do.
because that's how we change the world.
One heart at a time.
One heart at a time. And on that note,
Yes.
I think we've done our due diligence for today.
I think so too.
We've explored some deep concepts.
We have.
We've wrestled with some tough questions.
But that's what this is all about.
It is, and I hope our listeners come away from this conversation
I hope so.
feeling inspired and maybe even a little challenged.
To look inward, to connect with that divine spark, and to let it guide their steps.
Beautifully said. And on that note, thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive.
Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure.
It is, and thank you to our listeners for tuning in.
Yes, thank you.
We'll see you next time for another deep dive.
Looking forward to it.